Hey Twin Falls!
Hey Twin Falls!
Welcome back to our podcast. Last week, what happened, Deb?
Oh my gosh, I thought I was back in Utah. I've lived here since July, and she's lived here for 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't snow very much.
All I talk about is how mild the winters are.
I know, because we would send pictures on the family group me of so much snow in Utah, and then
green grass,
she'd send pictures of her green grass and everything. Well, that's not what it was like last week.
Snowmaggedon 2024.
And do you want to explain why? Or
well, it's that polar vortex.
Do you want to eat your words?
The polar vortex. It's not my fault. I didn't call for a polar vortex.
The winters here are normally pretty mild.
Very mild. Like I shovel my driveway maybe like 3 times a year, and sometimes you don't even have to shovel because the sun comes down and melts it, but
yeah.
I shoveled my driveway 3 times a day last week.
Yeah.
My kids had fun.
Yeah. They got
3 snow days.
3 snow days.
3 snow days. Right after Christmas break, I was about to go insane. And if you're looking for some mountain snow fun, you can go. There's a couple places you can go. You can go to Pomerel if you ski. Heard that's great. I don't ski even though
I've never skied
too.
This is my year though, because my husband loves to ski. He says Magic Mountain is great.
Yeah, there's Magic Mountain.
But he's going to take me and teach me.
So Magic Mountain, we've gone snow tubing there before.
Oh, fun.
Like our first year here, we went up to Magic Mountain and did their like tubing hill that was terrifying. But it was so fun. Go to the mountains. There's still a ton of snow.
Yes.
This week, trivia night, this Thursday at 6 p.m. at Kodo Brewing.
Which would be super fun.
Yeah,
especially
I've never
if
been
you're not out on the mountains.
Yeah,
like,
something fun to do.
Tubing.
I have seen it recommended pretty highly on Magic Valley Rants and Raves. People rave about it. So supposedly it's really fun and we should probably get out
let's do it.
It's so fun.
Yeah, so what's the market doing now?
Well, as of today, there are 213 active single-family homes in Twin Falls under 350,000.
What?
So there's quite a lot to choose from now.
to choose from.
And I'm hoping to add a couple on this next week. So
me too.
If your budget is below 350, tons to choose from. That's just Twin Falls City.
Whoa.
So
that's crazy.
Spring market is already beginning.
So I'm going to tell you about an experience I had as a new agent, and I did something. I was helping someone look at some houses, and they told me what they were looking at. I showed them a few houses, and it ended up they had been talking to a different realtor. My bad, I didn't ask them.
Vetted that before.
Yeah. So what experiences have you had with that?
One time, a long time ago, I was working with a buyer for probably a year, maybe a little over a year, and I found out that he saw a house that he wanted to go look at and called the listing agent because their number was on the sign. And I was like, hold up a second, like, I'm your agent. We have a signed representation agreement. I have been showing you homes for a year.
Did they just not understand?
Yeah, that was my bad too for not educating them, but here's the reason that representation matters. Because the guy listing the house, he's representing the seller. So he has to do his due diligence to the seller.
Best interest in mind.
There's a way, there's like a law of representation here in Idaho where you can do dual representation, but even that is kind of tricky because we're all humans and humans make mistakes. It's always in your best interest to have your own agent, your own representation, because the seller's agent is going to represent the best interests of the seller, and then your separate buyer's agent will represent your best interest and keep your information confidential.
I have spoken with some people who, like, I asked if they had signed something or if they were working with an agent, and they're like, I'm not sure. And so I asked if they had signed something and they still weren't sure, or maybe,
Yeah.
So I guess we need to be better at educating you guys, but we are right now. So know that if you're working with an agent, stick with that agent because they have your best interest in mind.
If you're one agent representing both sides, it is doable, but it's so much harder because the seller will tell you something and you have to remember like what you can and can't tell the buyer, and then the buyer will tell you something and you have to remember what you can and can't tell the seller, and it just gets confusing. So it's always in your best interest to each of you have your own separate agents. So representation matters. Make sure you have somebody in your corner that is only working for you.
So the places in Twin Falls that we're going to focus on.
Places and faces time.
Faces and places, places and faces.
Okay.
CSI and their community recreation. they're having a moonlight snowshoeing event that I think sounds fantastic, but they're leaving, it's on the February 24th, 3:30 a.m. CSI.
What?
They provide the transportation and the stuff, so if you don't have snowshoes.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So you don't have to have your own stuff?
No, so they drive you up and you snowshoe, and it says no experience necessary. So.
Do you just have to have like
Anyone?
a coat?
Yes, probably a good coat.
Where's it
It is Mount Harrison, which
Oh.
is by Palmer Hill, City of the Rocks,
Okay.
that area. And they'll drive you up there, and then you walk up and you watch the moon set and the sun rise. Doesn't that sound fantastic?
That is mildly interesting to me,
I think it
especially if
sounds
I don't
fun.
have to have my own gear or experience.
Well, and you can come home, it goes till noon, and you can come home and take a nap. And for our faces this week,
We did an awesome interview with Nathan Jensen from Fulcrum Home Loans. Let's roll the tape.
we have a special guest today.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
This is Nathan Jensen from Fulcrum Home Loans. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, Fulcrum Home Loans is a mortgage brokerage here in the Twin Falls area. We just started in January of last year, but Fulcrum's been around for about 4 years. And in that 4-year time period in the Ada County, they became the #1 lender in that county alone.
Nice.
And now in 4 years, Fulcrum's actually grown to the 2nd largest originator in the state of Idaho.
So how did you get started in mortgage lending?
Actually got a degree in accounting. I went to BSU, and then I started doing accounting work for a local accounting firm. Ended up not liking accounting at all. And so I
It
went.
seems like
I,
such an exciting career.
well, I quit my job in that accounting firm, and I went to just go sell cars. Ended up working in finance like that, and then so I got poached by a local credit union, which is when I started doing auto loans, credit cards. I wanted to do bigger, better loans, which eventually led me to doing mortgages. There was an open position at a local bank called First Federal, which is where I got my start. Was there for about 3 years, left First Federal to go to a retail lender in the area, left there after a year, and then now I'm here at Fulcrum, been doing mortgage lending as a whole for about 6 years now. So
What are some things that you love about this area?
this is probably one of the best areas to raise a family in, and it's very safe, it's very friendly. As far as economics go, we're, pretty affordable place to live too. And also
Nice.
growing up across the bridge,
Uh-huh.
I always wanted to live in Twin.
Oh, really?
There's always that
That's
I want to
the
get out of
place to
Jerome
live.
and go to Twin. There's something magical about Twin.
At what point do they need to speak with you?
Sometimes when somebody's starting to think about buying a home, it's a great thing to start with the loan officer so you can actually know what you can afford. If you start with the realtor, it's always great, but the first thing the realtor is going to do is tell you to go to the lender.
Yeah, that's what
It doesn't have to be like a full application, pre-approval immediately. Like we can at least just get on a phone call, quick 5 minutes, tell you what you might be able to qualify for. So that's called a pre-qualification. And then further along, typically your realtor wants a full pre-approval.
So the pre-qualification, does that hurt your credit?
No, so pre-qualification is literally just a conversation.
Okay.
So the pre-qualification is like, hey, what's your estimated income? Do you have any debts? Okay, based on your income, you might be able to qualify for said loan.
What kind of mortgages are there, and how do you know what's best for who?
Your conventional loan, your USDA, VA, FHA. So those are the most common loans that we see. So the conventional loan is typically those loans for those people who do have like their 5% down. They have, over 720 credit. They're the go-to program for most mortgage loan officers. Like I would say almost 70% of all loans are done through the conventional loan. So, and then from there you have the FHA loan, which is a really great program, has extremely competitive interest rates right now. Typically, sometimes an FHA loan can actually be better than a conventional loan, but it has this thing called permanent private mortgage insurance on the loan. So its payment, even though the rate is lower, could be just as much as a conventional loan, but it works for borrowers who don't have as much money down, and it also works with borrowers who have lower credit scores.
But you can refinance that after like a year,
Mhm.
right? If you want to.
Yeah, you can refinance your loan typically anytime, but most lenders will tell you to wait, 6 months to a year.
If someone is looking to buy a house, like first-time home buyer, in say a year, is it beneficial for them to come and speak with you about how to get there?
Yeah, we actually have a newsletter that goes out to all of our nurturing borrowers, which nurturing just means you're not ready to buy yet, but we're going to get you to the point. And so that new nurture newsletter comes out with a lot of credit tips, different programs, so you can understand like the different mortgage programs available. But the biggest thing for first-time home buyers is to know that the things you've heard in the news and from your family and friends may not be true. A professional can tell you what is true and what you can actually expect, because a lot of people still believe that you have to have 20% down, you have to have 760 credit, you have to have excellent credit, you have to have established credit. These things are not true. You can actually buy a home, get 100% financing. You don't have to have perfect credit, and these programs are available especially to first-time home buyers, and even more so there's programs available such as grants for people who have low income as well.
In case you are planning on buying a home soon or in the next year, the best thing to do would be to get on your email list.
The best thing to do, I would recommend, is giving us a call so we can talk about like answering some of the questions you may have immediately, and then from that point we can add you to the newsletter if you want to be on it.
Yeah, it's hard because kids just coming out of college or whatever don't really know what's going on in that arena, and as far as the credit score and the down payment and everything, they might think, oh, we're not even close to that.
Actually, that is a really big stigma, that people feel like they're being judged. It's often the time why.
Well, it's all their personal financial information.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's often the reason why sometimes family and friends don't even want to work with their friend or family member who is in the business.
Yeah.
Simply because, like, if you know a family member who bought a home and they didn't use you as the loan officer or realtor, it's probably because they didn't want you a part of their finances. So the point of a loan officer is to make the purchase process as comfortable as possible so that you don't feel awkward during it. It should be super smooth and easy, and in reality, it should be so easy that you don't even know who I am. It should be so easy as doing the application, getting the documents in, having my team work with you as far as getting you fully pre-approved, and then we're just out of it. The sooner we can get somebody cleared to close, the sooner they can just relax and know the financing is taken care of, even if their closing isn't even happening for another month.
So what do you say to like old Uncle Greg at Thanksgiving that says the market's gonna crash? And
people in the news say like, hey, it's a really bad time to buy, housing prices didn't drop, or maybe you should wait for rates to drop. Talk to the people who have owned their homes for 10 years and ask them, when you bought, was it a bad idea? And also, do you wish you wouldn't have bought? Because I have never heard anybody buy real estate and regret buying it. 1 to 2% of all people go through a foreclosure or bankruptcy. But for most people who buy a home, regardless of what rates were doing, regardless of where the home prices were, it was a good time to buy. And that's why real estate agents and loan officers say it's a good time to buy. If you wait for rates to come down, home prices go up. And if you wait for home prices to go down, well, then rates are going up. And we saw that last year where rates were going up, and we saw 50% of all new listings had a price decrease. In a market where the rates were really low, we saw home prices get listed for $300,000 and then they sold for like $350,000. So it's always a balancing act. You're gonna have one or the other. So the best time to buy is when you're ready to buy.
Yeah.
And buying real estate isn't like a short-term investment. You should buy it and hold it for the long term. So if you're just buying it to try and get in and out of it and make some money, that's not the way to do it. To get into real estate is to have a place to live and have your own home with your own rules.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, where can people find you? I know you've got awesome social media.
Well, we actually own the domain Home Loans Twin Falls. So very simply, you can go to homeloanstwinfalls.com and you can get started with an online application, or you can schedule a meeting. So you can do one of those two things. We even have online resources on there, so you can set up to get the newsletters if you wish to. You can watch videos we have on our websites for free resources to educate yourself.
Nice.
You can take a home, this is a really big thing we've been pushing out, you can take a home ownership quiz to see if you're in the position to buy. So you can answer the questions and apply it to yourself, and it'll tell you, if you're in a position to buy. And then of course, once you give us all your details and where you're at, we're gonna probably call you and say, hey, based on the quiz, we definitely think that this would be a good loan program for you. So,
well, thanks for being on today. We appreciate it.
Quick and simple.
Yeah. Thanks.
What a great ending.
Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.